If you grew up in Britain any time between the 80s and the early 2000s, chances are your childhood was built around one simple routine. School finished, you dashed home, tossed your bag in the hallway, and flopped onto the sofa just in time for CBBC or CITV. Whether it was Tracy Beaker, Dick and Dom, Jungle Run, Art Attack, or SMTV Live, these shows were a huge part of who you were. They shaped entire playground conversations, inspired dodgy impressions, and made school on Monday just a bit more bearable. These days, the picture looks nothing like it used to. The CITV channel has been shut down completely, CBBC is likewise gradually being nudged into the online wilderness, and the kind of children's programming that once felt proudly homegrown is giving way to a flood of imported cartoons and forgettable digital content. Most of what kids are watching now comes from American studios or YouTube channels. Instead of clever writing, it's all fast cuts, squeaky dialogue, and characters built for merchandising rather than storytelling. In short, it's junk food for the new generation. UK kids of the past were raised on fine dining. The warmth, the weirdness, the Britishness of it all has slowly faded, and what's taken its place feels flat, global, and strangely empty. But it wasn't always like this. There was a time, not even that long ago, when British children's TV was absolutely buzzing. From the 80s up to the early 2000s, there was a steady stream of programs that felt alive with creativity and character. They were often a bit mad, a bit scruffy, and completely original. Blue Peter could have you building a cardboard time machine one minute, then talking about real-life issues the next. Grange Hill gave a proper look at school life. It was telly that took risks, embraced chaos, and felt unmistakably British. CITV, on the other hand, gave us gems like Jungle Run, Zap, My Parents Are Aliens, and Bernard's Watch. It wasn't trying to be cool, and it didn't care about being polished. That was the charm. You'd get everything from slapstick game shows to surreal comedy sketches to stories with a bit of heart, all back-to-back on a weekday afternoon. Presenters weren't celebrities, they felt like older mates. And for many of us, they were the first people we'd encountered on telly who talked, joked, and laughed like we did. This era also gave kids a sense of place. You'd hear proper regional accents rather than only polished London voices. You'd see school kids in puffer jackets, corner shops, council estates, and in parks with broken swings and takeaway wrappers blowing around. For a lot of children, it was the first time they'd seen their own lives on screen. That sense of place, of belonging, quietly did more than anyone gave it credit for. It told kids their world mattered too. Things didn't fall apart overnight. It happened gradually, almost quietly. For a while, no one really noticed. By the early 2010s, the schedules looked a bit thinner. Fewer new shows were being made, old favorites were quietly disappearing, and imported cartoons started filling more of the gaps. The BBC began shifting CBBC content onto iPlayer, giving it less time on broadcast television. At first, it seemed like a sensible move. Kids were already online more, so putting the content there felt like adapting to the times. But the reality was different. This was a sign that children's television was no longer a priority, and that shift in focus marked the start of a slow but steady retreat. By 2023, ITV officially shut down CITV as a standalone channel, moving the kids' offering onto ITVX. CBBC was still hanging on, but barely. This wasn't just about viewership changing, it was also about broadcasters deprioritizing kids' content altogether. A big part of the decline comes down to policy. In the UK, there's no strong legal requirement for commercial broadcasters or streaming platforms to create or promote British children's content, which means companies like Netflix, Amazon, and Disney Plus can operate here without putting anything back into the local culture. Meanwhile, the BBC has had its hands tied by a frozen license fee and growing political pressure, forcing tough decisions about where to cut back. Children's programming, which doesn't pull in high ratings or generate headlines, is often first to go. What we're left with is a media landscape where kids are still watching plenty, though mostly on phones and tablets rather than traditional telly, but very little of it is British. YouTube now dominates that space. And while a few brilliant British creators have carved out a following, most of what kids come across is loud, overstimulating, and built entirely for the algorithm. It's designed to grab attention, not tell stories. Even something like Peppa Pig, which technically counts as British, has become so global and diluted that it hardly feels rooted in anything anymore. This isn't just a British problem either. Australia went through a nearly identical shift not long ago. In 2020, their government scrapped the quotas that had required networks to produce local children's content. Almost immediately, broadcasters began dropping it from their schedules. ABC3, the Australian equivalent of CBBC, was moved online, and the gaps were quickly filled by the same kind of international programming we're seeing here. But there's one key difference. They've got Bluey. While their system was stripped back in much the same way, somehow they still managed to create a homegrown show that's not only brilliantly written, but deeply rooted in Australian life, and it's managed to become a global hit without losing its local voice. Bluey is the gold standard of modern children's TV. It's clever, funny, emotionally rich, and unmistakably Australian. It's relatable because it's real, not because it was designed to be blandly international. And it's a massive success in ratings, merchandise, and cultural impact. The UK used to make shows like that. Shows that were homegrown and unmistakably British. Charlie and Lola, Thomas the Tank Engine, Postman Pat, The Clangers, even the Teletubbies. They were strange, charming, and brilliant. And they were hits around the world because they were proudly British. Today, it's hard to name a single new show that's had that kind of impact. Britain's also losing the shared experiences that brings kids together. There was something special about everyone watching the same show at the same time. It gave us common ground, something to talk about in the playground or reenact in the garden. Today's content consumption is fragmented. Kids watch different things on different platforms at different times, often in total isolation. That sense of community has all but disappeared. Then there's the talent pipeline. Many of the UK's most successful actors, comedians, and writers started out in children's television. It was a training ground for creativity, experimentation, and storytelling. Without strong kids programming, that pipeline gets disrupted. New talent has fewer opportunities to develop, and we risk losing the next generation of cultural voices. At the same time, the audience is drifting further from anything that feels recognizably British. Kids are still glued to screens, but much of what they're watching has little to do with their own world. When homegrown content disappears, young creators and young viewers lose out. They grow up without hearing their own voices on screen, without seeing places that look like home, and without the sense that their experiences are worth putting into stories at all. Every child deserves to see themselves reflected in the stories they grow up with. They deserve shows that speak their language, celebrate their quirks, and connect them to the place they come from. But what do you reckon? Were you a Tracy Beaker kid, a Jungle Run fan, or did you live for Dick and Dom on the weekends? And more importantly, do you think British kids TV can make a proper comeback, or has that ship already sailed? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we'd love to hear your take. And if you enjoyed the video, give us a like, hit that subscribe button, and tap the bell so you don't miss any more proper deep dives like this one. Cheers for watching, and we'll catch you next time.